G'day, this is Gary007 and welcome to my channel. If you like this sort of content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment down below about your experiences with World of Warships, what you disagree with me when it comes to carrier gameplay and whether or not they should be removed from the game or they're too OP or whatever your thoughts are. We can respectfully disagree on a lot of things and that's fine. That's what a discussion's all about. But in this video I'm going to talk about my reasoning behind why I don't think carriers are OP. So the most common question I get in response to this is a class of ship that can support an attack without putting itself in harm's way has no place in the game. So carriers, that's right, carriers play a team support role, which is to spot and attack other ships. That's what they're there to do. They are there to spot and attack other ships. The common response I get is, I can't fight back, it's not fair. I'm driving around on a battleship and a carrier comes in with his planes and he attacks me. My AA goes off. My AI of the AA gunner must be drunk half the time because he's missing these planes, and I feel like I'm not making a dent and I'm just taking punishment after punishment on my ship. This carrier can come in, drop bombs, spot on the flag and retrieve its planes and just keep that going all game. That's not entirely true, right? There's a way to reduce being the sole target of a carrier, right? And I'm going to touch on every one of these questions, right? But let me go through this. Good positioning will keep you alive. Don't be the lone wolf. These are basics that you should have learnt on when you play this game. The minute you go onto the flank by yourself, you are putting yourself in risk of being deleted within the first 5 minutes of the game. Stacking AA works. It does work. Don't let anybody tell you it doesn't. It reduces the incoming damage from carriers. If you don't want to stack and you've heard a YouTuber going stacking doesn't work, don't be fooled by that. It does. It really, really does. It might not destroy all the planes, but they're not going to drop every single torpedo bomb on you. Communication is key to this game, and it's like any PvP game. Communicate with your carrier at the start of the game. Request AA support. Talk to him at the start of the game. Be friendly about it. Don't be self-righteous there at the start of a game. Be friendly. You will get far when you are a lot kinder to other people on the battlefield. Now this is another response I normally get, right? Carriers are just too OP. No other class in the game can spot and attack with no harm to it. Really? You can't think of one thing, another class of ship in the game that can spot and attack with no harm to it? Who would win in a 1 versus 1 match? A battleship or a destroyer? I'm talking about it one-on-one. A battleship or a destroyer? You know the answer to this. The destroyer will win 10 out of 10 times. If the destroyer knows how to play, he will always beat the battleship and not give away its position and light up the battleship at the same time. A destroyer can spot and attack without harm to itself and destroy the battleship. This happens all the time in the game. You just probably not thought of it right now. If you play a game, right, a normal game with no CVs, right, just pretend you've got your dream match and there's no carriers in the game, right? You got your battleships, you got your cruisers, you got your destroyers, right? And you got, I don't know, 3 destroyers on each side, right? At the start of the game, 5 minutes into that game, all the destroyers are killed on your team. You've lost 3 destroyers. Do you think you've got a chance at winning that match? No. You have a 90% chance of losing that game. Why? Because you have lost an asset that can spot and attack without revealing itself or having harm to it. Now there are cruisers in the game that do have hydro. That is true. American cruisers do have that, but not every cruiser has that. Battleships are completely like flounders. They are at the mercy of support. They cannot take on destroyers. If you go into a match and you go to the flank and you go in with another cruiser or a destroyer and you're going, right, I'm going to look after this flank because I don't want to get outflanked by the enemy team. You go in there and then your destroyer gets destroyed in a one-on-one conflict you're buggered. Right then and there as a battleship, you are buggered. You're dead in the water. The only hope you have as a battleship is to turn around and rejoin with the main fleet. You have to give up that flanking position because you cannot see that destroyer. So don't tell me that carriers are the only ones that can spot an attack without harm to itself. Destroyers are kept in check when carriers are in play. And that's an important note to remember. Destroyers are kept in check when carriers are in play. Carriers are not the only class in the game that can spot an attack without harm to themselves. Now I want to pose this question to you and get to the root of all of this when it comes to carrier play. And I've made comparisons, and I needed to make comparisons so people can get a bit more of an understanding and sort of just hear me out on this. What carriers are people really upset about? What is it that people are really upset about carriers? Is it a particular tier? Are they upset at tier 4 carriers? Are people upset at tier 4 carriers? Are people upset at tier 6 carriers maybe? Maybe it's tier 6 or tier 8? Or is it tier 10? Most of the community enjoy playing tier 6 and tier 7. Why is that? Why is it that tier 6 and tier 7 seems to be the middle ground of enjoyment in World of Warships? Now I'm not saying that you're one of those people that like playing in that category, but a lot of people like playing in that category. Why is that? It's tier 10, right? Tier 10 is a problem, right, for a lot of people to play in, right? And there are a number of factors in a tier 10 game, and one of them is players buy ships, premium ships. They don't know the basics too, and that is a confounding fact, because if you're buying ships and you're buying your way into this game, you don't know the basics. Basically, real basics. It's not a complicated game. Let's be honest, it's not a super complicated game. It's a thinking man's game between each shot and positioning and where to go, right? But buying premium ships doesn't help the player out learning about ship. Players also rush up the tech tree, and this is something that I'm guilty of, not in World of Warships, but in World of Tanks. I used to play a lot of World of Tanks, and it's a very similar set up to World of Warships with their tech tree. I rushed up the tree, didn't care, got to tier 10. It's not all roses at tier 10. Actually, I just found tier 10 gameplay to be awful. So don't rush up the tech trees if you don't know the basics of the game. Matchmaking. Tier 8, tier 9 and tier 10. If you're playing tier 8, you generally get up tiered to tier 10, and it's not sunshine and roses basically. Tier 10 games can end really quickly due to high damage numbers. So everybody's pumping big damage numbers at that high level gameplay, and it's not very forgiving for you. You know, it's not a forgiving gameplay at tier 10. And if you don't have the basics down and follow the basics, you'll get punished, and you'll blame a CV for it because you've played out of position, you thought you can't do anything about it, but there is things that you can do about it. Now the question is, what about tier 10 carriers? And they are really OP and they need to be balanced, right? I don't think they are. I really don't think they are. If you play a tier 4 carrier and a tier 6 carrier, they're okay. They're nothing to write home about. Trust me. You do not dominate the battlefield on a tier 4 and a tier 6 carrier. Even in a tier 6 carrier, you get up tiered. It's not so bad, but you're starting to come across some serious heavy hitting AA at tier 8 if you're on a tier 6 carrier when getting up tiered. You play at a carrier at tier 8. Tier 8 basically to me in a carrier needs a buff, but I'm going to upset a lot of people by saying that. But tier 8 gets up tiered a lot more to tier 10 than it does down tiered. Down tiered is a different story, right? They're okay, nothing to write home about, but they're okay. They play the way they should. But up tiered, they are awful to play a carrier. You are grinding, you are banging your head against the keyboard because no, you end up being just a spotter and doing superficial damage because you will run out of planes really quickly as a carrier in a tier 10 game. Yeah, so it's just hard to get through AA at tier 10 when you're in tier 8. If you are not convinced by my argument, right, if you think still that carriers should be nerfed or they're just too OP and they should be nerfed, because I play at tier 10, right? I play Yamato and the Montana, and I've got the Zhao, right? And I've got other ships that play at tier 8 and tier 9, and I don't have an issue with carriers. But if you still have an issue, right? If you still have an issue, the solution that I can offer to you, if there was ever going to be a change on carriers, is simple. The easiest way to balance this carrier out is to reduce the health pool on the planes themselves. If you reduce the health pool on the plane, that means if they go in for a dive, they're going to take a lot more damage and the planes will start to crumble a lot more, so that they don't get full salvos off on you. But then, is it going to be enjoyable gameplay for a carrier? Right. Is it going to be a balanced, enjoyable experience for both people? Because that's what you really want to try and hit, not just one side of the fence. You need to strike a balance between both sides of the fence. And reducing the health pool on the planes is the easiest way. Instead of trying to figure out new mechanics, adding in a new mechanic for AA, which is ridiculous, or removing them from the game. People just advocate to remove carriers right from the game, right? Let's say that happens. Let's say you get your wish and say, I've removed carriers from the game. This is awesome. This is what it's supposed to be about. Battleships, cruisers, and destroyers. Great. No worries. No skin off my nose, because I play whatever class, right? If you do that, right, destroyers will be next on that bucket list to get rid of or reduce their capabilities on the water, because they are OP. Destroyers are OP in the game, right? Mark my words, you remove a carrier, they'll come after your destroyers. Anyway, that's my rant. If you like this sort of content, yeah, subscribe. If not, so be it. And yeah, leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the game. Alright then. See you out in the water. Bye.